What is up? We are back for another Tuesday night of the show. Welcome to the show. What is going on? Tonight we've got some QB rankings. We'll do some QB rankings and tiers tonight. We'll have some fun with that. But of course, before we get into that, what is good out there in the chat? What you guys got going on? We'll answer questions, of course, before we start getting into these QBs. But yeah, what's up, Marty? What's good? First one in here. What up, Marty? Derek in the building. What's good, Derek? What's going on with y'all? Any moves recently? I mean, it's been pretty dead for the most part in the majority of my leagues. But yeah, what's going on with y'all? Yeah, Hammer's still missing in action. And I feel like shit. I've been sick the last couple days, but had to hop on here, get into it with the QBs with y'all. Daniel Perry, what's good? What is up, my man? Well, who's got trades out there? Anybody's got any trades out there that they got going down or thinking about? Josh, what up, Josh? What's goody, man? But yeah, we will get into these QBs tonight, and it's rough with the QBs. Like there's a couple big tiers, I guess, but I mean, there's a lot of talk about all of these guys. Like, where are you taking them? Who are you taking over who? Kev, what up, Kev? What up, my dude? Yeah, make sure you guys smash that like for me. Smash that subscribe if you're new. Join the crew. Goku, what up, Goku? Made a trade first year playing Dynasty Superflex. Did I give up too much for Mahomes? All right, well, let's hear it. What you got? You know, we're gonna make mistakes, but all right, Superflex, like, is it 10 team? Is it 12 team? And like, how many starters on offense? If you count up all the offensive starters, no defense, no kicker, none of that. How many starters is it? So you traded for Mahomes. It's the first year, so I'm guessing it wasn't in the startup. This is after the startup. So is this going into your second year, or did you guys like just draft already? I mean, Mahomes costs. I mean, he costs a lot to get. He's a guy that you might be able to get slightly on a discount if like people aren't really believing in him. But now that he's got the weapons, I think his value has kind of gone back up. But let's see what Goku did here. Anybody else? Any other trades that have been going down out there? So we did the draft. After the draft, okay, gave up Tank Dell, Monty, Corum, and JD5. I'm okay with that. That's not a big cost. I mean, JD has potential, and we'll talk about him tonight on the show. But I mean, Tank Dell, Monty, and Corum. I mean, I wouldn't really even count that. Those are like throw-ins just to get you over the top. Like, we were able to get Mahomes for decently cheap on the hype of Jaden Daniels, right? I mean, he is a rushing quarterback. Again, we'll talk about him later. Heisman winner, but it's still a risk. Like, his frame he's a little bit smaller. Is he going to be as successful rushing the football in the NFL? I mean, he could throw it a little bit. He can sling it. So, and then so you got Mahomes, you got Ayuk and a first round pick and Mostert. So you got Mahomes, Ayuk, a first round pick and Mostert, and you gave up JD5, Monty Corm, and Tank Dell. Yeah, you definitely destroyed in this trade. I mean, you got back literally all of the best players, and you got a first round pick on top of it. So yeah, that's an awesome trade for you. I mean, you basically just stole Mahomes, Ayuk, and a first. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, league's been crickets. A lot of leagues been crickets right now. You know, we're getting closer though. We're getting closer. Robbery. That's what I'm saying, Kev. I mean, you killed that, Goku. That's awesome trade for you. I mean, I don't know why someone would give up all of that. Like they must be a Tank Dell truther, JD5 truther. Like that's a lot of conviction. That's a lot of risk. Emil, what up, Emil? What's good, man? Mystic said poke a late first, late 25 first, a 26 third, get Zay Flowers. There's a 12-team Superflex start 11, got third place late first. Okay. 12-team Superflex start 11. So you're giving up poke, a first and a third. You're getting Zay Flowers. I mean, it's not crazy much, but you're still giving up a first plus. Like, I know we say that it's going to be late, but of course, we don't know what's going to happen. Who's going to get injured? That can very easily turn into a mid first or early first. Who knows? I don't know if I want to, especially in the start 11. I don't know if I want to give up the first and poke to get Flowers. Like in a 26 third, I think I'm holding on to that. I don't think I want to give that up for Zay. If you're just giving up the late first, like I could understand that, but in the start 11, I think I want the first with poke in the third. Yeah, I think I want the first. It's not bad if you wound up doing it, but I think I'd rather just hold on to the leverage of the first. Like I think we know what Zay Flowers is. He's going to be a solid like wide receiver too, fantasy wise for us. So I think I want to just hold on to the first there. Unless you could do it with just giving up the late first, like I said, I'd be okay with that. Goku said you start 11 players. I mean, yeah, even better for you in that trade. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Marty, what's good, Marty? Yeah, what other trades you guys got going down? Ghost Monkey in the building. What up, Ghost Monkey? What's good, my man? You have Josh Allen also? Okay, so yeah, you're definitely killing it now. So you got Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. So you're set at the super flex position. And you got Ayuk and you got a first. So yeah, you're ready, man. You're ready. Fields, yeah, we were going to talk about him a little bit later, but Fields, I mean, if you can get him, I guess, for like a late second on a team that you already have two quarterbacks and you have extra, picks to spend and you just want to take a shot. He's your QB3, so it doesn't really matter if it fails or not. Like I'm okay with that, but it's hard to try and believe in Fields at this point. I mean, he's going to get one more shot, but he's not going to have a long leash at all at this point. So, he's definitely a risk. He's not somebody that I'm really taking a chance on. Unless I've got extra picks, maybe I'm a contending team and I want to, take the chance on that value if it could go up. Now, there's going to be another window, right? He's going to get another chance. There's going to be a window for him to, yeah, for you to be able to sell him. So I'd be looking for that whenever that comes because he most likely will get a shot at some point this season. And that's going to be the time to try and move off. Huss, what up, Huss? Small trade, but I gave Musgrave for Komet and a third. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take the little extra piece. Give away Musgrave, grab Komet and a third. I mean, Komet's got a lot of target competition there now, right? There's a lot of players to feed over there. So yeah, I'll take that little extra piece, even though it's only a third. We'll take that. Yeah, you're welcome, Goku. I mean, You did the trade. I mean, that was awesome for you. I don't know how you were able to pull that off, but I mean, that tells me you might be able to pull off some other things. So, take advantage now, especially in a like you said, you just started. It's your first time doing Dynasty. I'm sure a lot of the other players in your league, same kind of thing. So take advantage now, while you can, and try and get some of these young stud players. Like, you want to get some of these core players. You're already set at superflex position. You're set at quarterback position. So now work on those wide receivers. Don't worry about the running backs. You'll wind up finding those, but stack up on the wide receivers now while you can. And we'll start getting into the quarterbacks here. Let me put up at least the first tier here, which is pretty simple. When do player schedules come into play value-wise for you? I've been looking. Dolphins schedule the first half as perfect time to get off of Hill. I mean, I'm not really worried about the schedules per se. We're playing Dynasty, so it's not just about this season. I guess you can say, I mean, you don't really even have to look at the schedule for it. Like, there's going to be times during the season where you're going to be able to sell players high, right? Once they have good games. So it doesn't matter who they play, but if they have a good game or a good string of games, that could be an opportunity for you to sell a player, right? Same thing there. If they have a couple bad games, that might be an opportunity for you to buy a certain player. I mean, Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. I mean, anybody's going to want him regardless of the schedule or who they're playing. So, there's always going to be an opportunity to move off of a guy, like Cheetah. But during the season might be a better time to kind of capitalize on a team that is trying to win it all. They might give up, a little bit extra to go and grab him. So Mystic said, give AJ Brown a late 25 first and poke. You get London, Flowers, and Devontae Adams. Get London and Flowers, and no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I like AJ Brown over obviously London and Flowers and Devontae, but like, you're giving up AJ Brown. You're giving up the best player in this trade, who's not even that old. He's what? He's going to be 27, I think, this year. And you're giving up a first. And you're giving up Polk. And you're getting an old Devontae Adams. And you're getting a London who we hope goes off. And I'm a big London fan, but again, it's still a little bit risky. And you're getting Flowers. Like, I'd rather have AJ Brown over London. Flowers in the first, I mean, you could argue that. And then Polk over Devontae Adams. Not necessarily Polk over Devontae Adams, but I don't expect Devontae to have like a top 5 season. So I just don't want to. I don't want to give up my first along with my best player, AJ Brown, to go and do this. Like, can I split AJ Brown into London and Flowers? Like, I'll take that without giving up the first. If you want to split AJ Brown into 2 because you need some wide receiver help, like, I'm okay with that, but I'm not going to give up my first on top of it. You feel what I'm saying, Mystic? What would you guys make this trade? Help us out there in the chat. AJ Brown, the late first and Polk, or London Flowers and Devontae Adams? And Mystic, just for context, what is the what's the format? Zach, what up, Zach? Drafted Tyreek Hill at the 111 today. Great value. Is that in a Dynasty, like, 1 QB league, or? Oku said, I got Garrett Wilson, Pickens, Ayuk, Odunze as my core. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. With your 2 quarterbacks, I mean, you're dominating those positions. You got Garrett Wilson, you got Pickens, you got Ayuk. I like Wilson with Ayuk. You got a young Odunze. Maybe can you tier up from one of these guys? Can you put two of these guys together and go get a JJ Chase, Amon-Ra type? You're weak at running back. That's okay because you're strong at quarterback and you're strong at wide receiver. So that's all right. Don't worry about the running back right now. There's going to be times during the season where you're going to be able to buy some of these guys. Should I trade Pollard in Dynasty? Well, what's your situation, Zach? What's your situation? I mean, if you're trying to rebuild, then yes, you should trade Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard in a sense because he's just such a he's low value. Like you can buy him for pretty cheap right now, especially since a lot of people love Tajay Spears, where people have Spears ranked ahead of Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard is going to be the guy that gets the bulk of the carries, and Tajay Spears is going to be, maybe a little bit more than what he did last year, like spelling Derrick Henry on third down and pass catching situations. I think he'll be a little bit more than that this year, but I think Pollard is the better back. Superflex start 11. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't want to give up the first, especially in a start 11 Mystic. I want to hold on to the first. Like I said, if you can split A.J. Brown in two, I'm good with that. I want London, Flowers, Adams. Okay, Derek, I can feel that. Like I've said, it's not a bad trade, but I just feel like I'd rather have my first. If I can just do what if you just try and take did you make that trade already? Can you just take Adams out of it? Can you do like London and Flowers for AJ Brown? Maybe you have to throw in a small piece. One Nation, what up, One Nation? What's goody? Okay, best ball Superflex, not Dynasty, Zach said. Okay, you drafted Tyreek Hill at the 111 in best ball Superflex. Okay. No, I got you. I'm not a Polk believer. No, I'm not a Polk believer either. It's not even really about Polk. It's just about having that first round pick, really. On what you can do with that. Because I don't want to you're basically paying a first to tear down from AJ Brown. You know what I mean? Like you're the one paying the tax, and it shouldn't be that way. The other guy should be paying the tax to you because he's trying to get the better player in AJ Brown. On top of that, he's trying to get a first round pick. So that's how I'm looking at it there. So it's not necessarily about Polk, but he is just a piece that some people like. He's slightly valuable. Goku said no on the trade. I believe more in Pop Douglas and Baker over Polk. I can see that. I mean, that's fine, but still, I just don't want to give up my first and give up my best player or the better player in the deal. You know what I mean? Unless you fully believe in, and I do fully believe in Drake London too, but it's still a risk. Like I can't sit here and say it's not risky. Got any thoughts on Saints rookie Bub Means thinking of stashing him? Yeah, I mean, he's a fine stash. The chances that he actually does anything are probably very slim or wind up turning out into anything are probably very slim, but there's not much wide receiver competition out there. I mean, it's Olave and A.T. Perry and Bub and Shaheed. So he's a fine stash, but he's not a guy that you're holding thinking he's the next Puka. He's a guy that you're holding hoping that he has a good game or two and somebody likes him enough for you to put him in a trade to get a trade done. Mystics that didn't make the trade. Okay. So yeah, let me know now that I kind of went over how I feel about it. Do you want to make that trade? How do you feel about it? I wouldn't give up a first though. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, Derek. That's all. I can't give up the first, bro. Can't give up the first and AJ Brown. No. We don't want to do that. Zach said I have Stroud, Love, Saquon, Cook, Amon-Ra, Pukaze, Trey McBride, Jaden Reed, Zamir White, Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, Jerome Ford, Vidal, Bryce Young, Dotson, right? Okay. Do I trade Pollard from that team or just keep? I mean, you got some running backs, but like I like Pollard in the sense that like what if Tajay Spears gets hurt and and Pollard's like the only guy there? Like you've got other good running backs, so it's not like you're pressed for it. So it depends. What can you get for Pollard? Like I don't know what you can get for him. What are you looking to get from him? You know, if it can make your team better, then I'm all for it. You know, you've got Stroud and Love. I mean, did you have another backup quarterback? You got Bryce Young also, so you don't even need. I was gonna say try and get like a cheap backup, but you already got one. So I mean, it doesn't hurt to shop around. It's always good about shopping around. I definitely think AJ Brown for Flowers in London is better. I'll throw in Polk if he doesn't like that. Yeah, I'm okay with doing that. If you want to throw Polk in there to get Flowers and London, like just to tear down and have two wide receivers, like I'd be okay with that. But for the most part, I mean, I'd rather have AJ. He does want to rebuild and looking for first, and I'm contending. Yeah, so I mean, if he wants to rebuild and he's looking for first, I mean, you know, will he take a first for London? Like, I'll give him the first for London. You know, especially if you're contending, it should be a late first, hopefully anyway. You got to give him, the first and Polk to get London. Like, I'll take that. If he's rebuilding, I mean, you shouldn't be necessarily trying to buy AJ Brown. Again, not that he's old, but you're talking about two way younger wide receivers. Got Hurts, Kyler, JJ, AJ Brown, Devonta, Reed, Dio John, JSN. So yeah, so you've got JJ and AJ Brown to go with Devonta, and you have Reed and Dio John. No, there's no reason for you to even make this trade, to even go near this trade. Like you're already in. Like what you need to do maybe is go out and get yourself a third quarterback. Can you get a third, a cheap third quarterback for backup just in case one of your guys goes down? Because you're fine at wide receiver. I mean, JJ and AJ Brown. Oh, your third quarter. Oh, that's right. Your third quarterback's Bryce Young. So we don't even got to do that. Like you have a backup already. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason for you to make that trade. You know, he's rebuilding. Can we give up can you give up like JSN plus to go get London? Can you give him the first? Will he take Devonta Smith and Jaden Reed maybe? You know, something like that. Just some different ideas. So yeah, you're good, man. Yeah, give it first for London. All right, let's start talking about these QBs. The RBs are iffy, but I love them with Sharp, Chase, Young, Kendrick, Corum, tight end is Joku. Yeah, I mean, you're good in your other positions, so like you're fine, man. Go up JSN bum ass. Listen, I like JSN. I'm not gonna sit here and say he's a bum ass because he is a good guy to try and maybe buy low a little bit, but the price is still necessarily high because a lot of people do believe in him. But we'll see what happens this season. See what happens this season. He wasn't far behind both of those guys in targets, so he won't beat Jack until Lockett retires. Yeah, we'll have to come back to that one, Derek. But all right. Let me fix this. I don't like it that way either. All right. So let's talk about the Dynasty quarterback rankings and tiers. I've got 7 tiers here, and let's get right into tier number 1, which for me consists of only 2 players, which is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Mix it however you want. You know, you can say that Josh Allen relies a little bit more on his legs. Yeah, he only ran for like 500 something yards last year. Like he is taking a beating a little bit, but he is a bigger guy. He can take the hits, and he's still throwing for what, almost 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns through the air. So he doesn't just have to run, to be successful in the long run. So I think both of these guys are going to last a really long time. So I got Patrick Mahomes up there as the number 2. Who do you guys have in that first tier? Do you have somebody else in there? For me, it's just these 2 guys because I think that third guy could be a bunch of different guys, which will lead us into our tier 2 here. But anybody else have any suggestions or arguments with tier 1? Should there be somebody else in there or not? And some might say CJ Stroud. Some might say Hurts. I struggle. Um, I struggle with it because I kind of want to have Hurts up in tier 1. And I'll talk about Hurts in a second when we go into tier 2. So I'll start putting up tier 2 and we'll talk a little bit more about Hurts here. And we'll get into Stroud as well because I know the next question is going to be, CJ Stroud as well. So let me get tier 2 ready and then we'll start talking about these guys. Think Stroud should be in tier 1. Would you say Burrow, but he can't stay healthy? Yeah. Listen, I like Joe Burrow. We're going to talk about here in a second. Stroud, not unless 6-point per passing TD. I have Hurts in tier 1, 2. Yeah. I mean, for me, I play in mostly leagues that are 6-point passing touchdown. So I base mine off a 6-point passing touchdown. So as we get into tier 2 here, we've got Jalen Hurts, CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. I feel like you can kind of make the argument for any of these guys to be that third quarterback. I mean, Jalen Hurts has been awesome. Even with a bad year last year, he's still finishing top 3. So it's really hard to argue with, for Jalen Hurts not to be up there at least in tier 1, but he is a Russian quarterback. Right? We know that in the league, in history, they haven't been able to last particularly that long compared to these pocket passers. So, when those legs do go, as he starts getting older, is he still going to be able to be as effective as he has been so far? Does his passing improve? Right? Are they going to pass the ball a lot more this year, which they're saying, which they have been talking about? So, can he be a better passer? But again, it's really for Jalen Hurts, it's the long run, is to look at the future. Like, is he still going to be able to be a top producing fantasy quarterback for us if he starts losing his legs a little bit at an older age? CJ Stroud, a lot of people want to put CJ Stroud up in that tier 1. I just can't do it just yet, just because, like, these guys above him, I mean, Mahomes, Allen, like, these guys have finished as QB1 before. We've seen Mahomes throw, insane amount of touchdowns, an insane amount of yards. We've seen him finish as QB1. So I can't get Stroud up there yet, but I can understand it. I can understand the argument for it because of how young CJ Stroud is, because how well he did in his rookie season. A lot of quarterbacks haven't done as well as he did. So I could definitely understand it there. But I got that followed by Joe Burrow And him and Joe Burrow is kind of like a 4A, 4B for me. Like I said, it's one big tier, so you can kind of mix it around how you want. But we've seen what Joe Burrow can do when he's healthy. The problem is staying healthy, but he's had some freak injuries. I mean, we've talked about injuries, and we have, put guys to the side like CMC before, like Lamar. Now that these guys have stayed healthy lately, now we're up on them again. So I think if Joe Burrow can stay healthy, we know what he can do. So for me, he is up there in that second tier. And then we've got Lamar, the Russian quarterback, right? Not too bad passing last year. So, I mean, looks like that is at least improving slightly. But again, he is one of those Russian quarterbacks. For me, the way I play Dynasty, I prefer to have my QB1 as a pocket quarterback. I feel safe about it. I feel like if I had a Lamar or a Hurts, that I'm kind of banking on making sure I get a decent QB3 because just in case of injury. So I love Lamar. Some people have Lamar as QB3. I just can't put him up that high. I just feel a lot comfortable with guys like CJ Stroud or Joe Burrow. But that knocks it off for tier 2, consistent of those 4 guys: Hurts, Stroud, Burrow, and Lamar Jackson. So what do you guys think about tier 2? Is there somebody else you'd put in that tier, or would you take somebody out of that tier? Let me know. I like Stroud and Lamar Jackson higher. I could see that. I feel that. Like I said, it is a tier. We put them in a tier for a reason. You can there's very small difference between these guys. So I don't mind if you kind of mix it anyway. I think every regular league should be a 6-point passing. Yeah, it should be. I love. It's also for everyone else. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Kellen Moore open up the offense for Devonta Smith in the slot. More loves that slot, like when Lamb was in the slot. Yeah, I mean, you can see that the dominant receivers in the NFL, like they're moving around and they're playing in the slot, right? CeeDee Lamb, JJ, Cup, right? Puka. These guys are playing all around. They're being moved around the field, creating mismatches. And like you said, Kellen Moore and that new offense, are they going to pass the ball a little bit more? Can we see an improvement, with Jalen Hurts throwing the football? They just paid the 2 wide receivers, right? They paid AJ Brown, they paid Devonta Smith, they paid Jalen Hurts. Like, so, they wound up paying Saquon as well, but they're gonna have to pass the ball, and they've got 2 great receivers on the outside. So I think Jalen Hurts just can't fuck it up, is the real thing. The receivers that Stroud has to pass to, Nico Diggs and Tank Dell, is the best receiving duo in the NFL. I agree. I think they've got one of the greatest wide receiver rooms out there. Who knows what Diggs is going to give us? That's still obviously a question mark. Is he the number 1? Is he the number 2? Is he the number 3? Is he just getting older? Is he on the decline? But yeah, we saw what Stroud did last year with just Nico and Tank Dell, and Tank Dell wound up getting hurt, right? Nico missed a game or 2. So if these guys can all stay healthy and grow together, right? They just gave the contract to Nico. Him and Tank Dell are just about the same age. Tank Dell's on his rookie contract still for a few years. So they've got a few years to grow together, which is exciting and good for CJ Stroud. Derek said you're good there. Stroud is very young. Yeah, second year. I agree. I mean, that's why, I'm okay with putting him up there because of how young he is. Keep them and add Dak, very underrated. Yeah, I mean, I can't put Dak up here yet just because of his age, really. But I think he is kind of underrated. I think there's a huge kind of tier where we have some guys that are a little bit underrated, but yeah, shitty QBs upside they don't deserve because of rushing. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I like all 6-point passing touchdowns. I think I'm in like one league that has a 4-point passing touchdown, and I don't necessarily love it. All right, so let's start putting tier 3 together here. There's going to be some questions about some of these guys and where I have them. But again, it is a tier. You can kind of move them up and down, I feel like. All right, let's get into tier 3 here, consisting of 5 guys. We have Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, and Justin Herbert. I still somewhat mix around some of these guys between Caleb, Love, and Herbert. Like one day I might feel like I want to go with Love. One day I might feel like I want to go with Caleb. One day I feel like I might want to go with Herbert. But 5 guys in this tier here. Anthony Richardson, of course, has huge risk, but he also has huge upside. You know, he finished as what, the top 5 QB in the few. I know it was a small sample size of the games he's played. Yes, he did get hurt, but we can't deny the upside that he has, right? We saw Justin Fields finish as a top 10 QB and barely throw for what, 2,000 yards? I mean, so we know that the upside is there for Anthony Richardson, but he's a huge risk. And I've got to be honest, I'm not 100% comfortable with Anthony Richardson, especially as my QB1 in a super flex league. That's just, it's a lot of risk. And, you know, if I can get maybe one of those wide receivers instead, like a JJ, CD, or Chase, I might go there instead of Anthony Richardson. And then in that second round on the comeback, just pick up whatever quarterback falls to me, you know, whether that is A-Rich or Kyler or Caleb or Jordan Love or Herbert. So, you know, he is risky. I can definitely admit that, but I have to admit also the upside that he has of finishing as QB1, you know, because of what he can do with his rushing. Kyler Murray coming in next. I mean, this guy has been a top 10 quarterback every season he's played when he's been healthy. And now he's back. Now he's got some great weapons in Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison. So, I don't love Kyler Murray as like a quarterback. I actually hate almost like the way that he plays. I never liked how he just always has to scramble out of the pocket, you know, where he just can't do things like on the regular, like timing routes, staying in the pocket. Like he doesn't do those things great, but he's a great fantasy quarterback. He's got the contract, so he's safe. And again, now he's got some weapons. So maybe we can see an improvement in the passing game. But again, another year removed now from the injury, so he should be rushing a little bit as well. And he doesn't take big hits. He's able to get down, or he's pretty smart with his rushing. So, you know, Kyler Murray, and I think it's almost a crime to rate him outside the top 10. Like I feel like he has to be in the top 10 of dynasty quarterbacks because of what we've seen before in the past and now what he has on offense. Follow him with Caleb Williams, and I know he's a rookie, but he is coming into the best situation. He is a superstar, which could be in the making, as we've seen, like from what he can do in college. And I think he has the talent. I think he has a little bit of rushing upside. Well, we know he has a little bit of rushing upside. And with the weapons that he has, I mean, it's going to be hard for him to fail. There's a lot of pressure on him, but I do think that he could be an elite quarterback, and that's why I have him here. But again, he is a little bit risky, followed by Jordan Love. Maybe you feel better with Jordan Love because he's done it already. Again, I'm okay with that. Same tier for me, no big deal. But we saw what Jordan Love did last year. He's just going to continue to build onto that. Hopefully he gets a healthy Christian Watson that comes back this season, another weapon. You know, he's got Jaden Reed, he's got Wicks, he's got Dubes. So he's got weapons around him. Jacobs in the backfield. So he's got some weapons. He's going to continue what he's doing. And once he gets his contract, he might move up a little bit in dynasty rankings as well, depending on where he finishes in this particular season. Follow that with Justin Herbert, who I can argue Herbert to put right after Kyler Murray or even before Kyler Murray or before Anthony Richardson, because we know what he can do in a passing offense. And they've changed the offense now, right? They're going to a little bit more run heavy, but I think he's going to be more efficient passing the football. He doesn't have a ton of weapons now. Hopefully Ladd McConkey, Palmer, you know, QJ, hopefully these guys can get it done. But not much wide receiver help out there, but you can get him for relatively cheap right now and get him in like the mid-second round of your startup drafts just because everybody thinks they're just going to run the crap out of the ball. They still got to pass somewhat, right? Herbert can throw the football. He's a good quarterback. So, you know, and that's why I have him up here still in this tier. I can't put him out of this tier because we've actually seen it before, you know, what Herbert could do. So what do you guys think about tier 3 here? Who's too high, too low? Who would you add into this tier? No way, Kayla. Yeah, not yet. That's why we look to the future, Huss. When we, at least for me, the way that I like to do my dynasty rankings is I am projecting a little bit as well. So, he might not necessarily deserve to be up here yet, but by the end of the season, I think that we're going to see that just like we saw, with Jordan Love this year. So, Richardson is sketchy. Richardson is sketchy for sure. Difference with this is they didn't have, a Brock Purdy, or they didn't play the whole, 49ers played that whole situation sketchy with Jimmy G from the jump. But Anthony Richardson is a bigger dude, and I don't think the Colts are that bad enough where they're just going to be able to draft another quarterback with a high draft pick. Like, because we saw they weren't that bad with even Minshew last year. So I think A-Rich is at least pretty safe, unless he breaks his shit again. I mean, like I said, he is very, very risky, and we do have to admit that. Taking Caleb out that line, yeah. See, JD is a tough one, and I'm going to talk about JD in this next tier here because I feel like I can put him in the back of this tier. I think I'm with you there, Derek. Absolutely. J Love is starting this tier for me. I could see that too. Kyler, JD, Richardson, Dak, taking out Herbert and Caleb. I could feel that. I could feel that, Derek. Yep, Anthony Richardson, Caleb, Jordan Love is the best QB. I can see that too, Zach. Tino, what up, Tino? I've been thinking all day, what can kill a wizard? I don't like QJ, but I like drafting Ladd and Josh Palmer late. Yeah, I agree there too. I think Palmer's going a little bit underrated. I think Chargers are going to run the football all game, zero throwing. They do know they'll have to throw the ball when they're trailing, right? Yep, absolutely. Mystic, injury prone. Yeah, could be absolutely. That's the risk that you can take. That's the risk that there is with these rushing quarterbacks. How risky do you want to be, or how risky are you? Do you go for that upside, or do you play it safe? Like, let me get the next tier pulled up. Tino, what up? Yeah, you're supposed to be here, Tino. Colts have Joe Flacco as a backup now to replace Anthony Richardson if he gets hurt. Yeah, so listen, if you do have Anthony Richardson, make sure you get the backup. I mean, any of your starting quarterbacks, really. I mean, just go get the backup now before it costs you too much, during the season once your guy gets hurt. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with adding, well, I think just by age almost. I don't know if I could add Dak to that tier, but I'm okay if you put him in the back of that tier. We're about to pull up the rest of this right here. And we're going to talk about some of these guys because there's a lot of talk about all these guys. That's kind of why I have them all in this tier. But let's get into tier 4. Leading off the tier, JD5, Dak Prescott, T-Law, Tua, Brock, Jared Goff, and Deshaun Watson. And I'm okay with putting JD5 in the back of tier 3. The only reason why I didn't is because I feel like there was a clear tier between Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels when we were talking about, the draft and our rookie drafts. And so I don't know if I felt great enough to put them in the same tier now, in the quarterback rankings. So that's kind of why I have him starting off the tier 4, because he has the upside to get into that next tier. right? He does have the rushing ability. He was a Heisman winner. He can throw the football also, but he is a little bit of a slender frame, right? How is that going to translate to the NFL as far as his rushing ability, right? Do we have to worry about him getting hurt? Is he going to run the right way and get down? How much of a beating can he take? So he can definitely move up in these tiers here, but I feel like there is still a little bit of a risk, and I do feel like Caleb was in a different tier than Jaden Daniels beforehand. So again, it's hard for me to kind of throw him in that tier as well. Dak Prescott, an older guy, right? But giving you the fantasy points, right? Finished as a top 5 fantasy quarterback last season. He's going to give you 30 plus tutties. He's going to give you, 4,500 yards. Nothing's changed in that offense. They didn't really get anybody new. They didn't go out and get a running back so they can pound the rock. They're going to throw the football. So I'm okay with putting Dak up into the tier before that, even though those guys are a little bit younger than Dak. That's kind of why I have him in this tier. But for the production purposes, of course, if you want fantasy points, you're a contending team, you're going to want Dak Prescott. T-Law just gets the contract. We've seen, one good season out of T-Law, but he hasn't really lived up to the expectations that we wanted him to, or that we thought he was going to. Obviously, there's still a ton of time for that. They go out and get Brian Thomas. You've got Kirk coming back. You've got Ingram. So you've got some weapons over there. You've got ETN in the backfield. So what can T-Law do going forward? That's why I have him in this tier here, followed by Tua, who led the league in passing last year, and an electric Miami offense. I mean, those running backs accounted for a shit ton of touchdowns. Is that going to continue? Or does Tua throw in some more touchdowns? They just gave a contract to Waddle. You've got Cheetah, of course, as well. Now, Tua did not get a contract, so he is still somewhat risky here, but I think he will get the contract. I don't think they're not going to give him a contract. I think eventually they will, especially if he has another great season this year. Like, he might move up in Dynasty rankings once he gets the contract. Brock Purdy, he's such a hard guy. Like, he doesn't necessarily have the upside, but he's so safe. Like, you can argue to put Brock higher here, but we've got to put somebody over somebody. But that's why I like to have it in this tier, because you can kind of move these guys back and forth in the tier. So Brock is a tough one. Like, what happens when CMC is gone after a few years? What happens if Ayuk goes? What happens if Debo goes? Like, what happens when those weapons aren't there anymore? Is Brock still going to be, as good as he can be? I don't know. It's tough. Like, I'm not a Brock hater, but I also can't justify putting him up too much higher. I could see moving him up into the front of this tier, or at the top of this tier, maybe behind Dak. I can't put him above Dak, I don't think, even with the age. But that could be a conversation. But I could see him leading off this tier, so I'd be okay with that. Jared Goff just gets his contract. I mean, with the Lions, he's got weapons: Laporta, Gibbs, Amon-Ra, J-Mo. I mean, he's got a ton of weapons over there, and he gets the contract, got paid very good. So he's going to be there for a while. He's a safe quarterback. He's going to give you 45-ish 100 yards. He's going to give you 30 tutties. He's going to be in that top 12-ish range. And then we got Deshaun Watson, right? Deshaun Watson, some people probably hate that he's in this tier right here, but he hasn't been that bad. He's just been injured, right? Of the games he played last year, QB 5, QB 10, QB 8, QB 14, and QB 27. And the QB 27, that was week 2 in that crazy weather game. So he's consistently finishing almost in the top 10 the majority of the games that he played. Even though it didn't look great, he still was rushing for about, 30-ish yards a game. That'll put him on pace with like a Josh Allen, 500 yards for the season. So I think with a healthy Deshaun Watson, I think he's going to be okay. He's going to be better than what people might think. We've seen what he can do in the past. I know that was a long time ago, but I still feel like he can't be that bad, especially when you look at his production last season, compared to the other quarterbacks. Like, again, he was top 10 in most of those games. But yeah, what do you guys think about this particular tier? Again, we can move these guys up and down. Totally fine with that. And I can kind of see a JD5 or even a Dak moving up into that, putting them into the back end of that third tier there as well. Was gonna say I would have added Dak to that for fantasy point purposes. Yep. Don't worry, bro. I'm here for the Dak slander, Derek. No Dak slander. We're good on Dak. I like Dak. Where is A-Rod? Like Aaron Rodgers? No, Aaron Rodgers. He does make the list, but he's gonna be at the bottom because he's just an older guy, and we don't know what we're gonna get out of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we know the talent that he has, but does he give us one season? Does he give us 2 seasons? Does he break his shit again? I don't know. I got Purdy, A-Rod, and Dak higher. Murray, Caleb, Love low. Yeah, I'd be okay with that, Tino. I could feel it. I could feel it. I mean, the dynasty rankings are so, subjective and, how you want to handle the points, the value, the age. Like there's so many variables that go into it. T-Long belong next to Watson. Listen, I again, like I can see that. Like I can see the argument to put Tua higher, to put Brock higher, to put Goff higher. Like I can see that. Like I'm not opposed to that. Like again, that's why I have him in this tier because you can kind of move some of these guys around a little bit. He hasn't gave us what we want. Dak, Tua, Allen, Stroud, and Aaron are 4K yard passers. I feel that, but how many more seasons are we getting out of Aaron Rodgers? That's the thing. Penix Jr. Listen, Penix is another one where like and I might have him a little bit higher than what others do, but I have him in a particular tier here, which I'll show you. But yeah, that is tier 4 there, and I'll start getting tier 5 ready. Tier 5 is another kind of big tier. All right. All right, so so let's get into tier 5 where we have Bryce Young, Drake May, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, and Bo Nix we have in this particular tier. And Bryce Young leads off the tier, right? He wasn't great last year, but he had nothing really to work with. It was just a bad situation. I do still believe in Bryce Young. So I've got him leading off this tier. I expect a lot better season this year. They went out and got some talent around him, got him Deontay Johnson, got him Jonathan Brooks for the backfield. So I think he's in a lot better situation for this particular season, and he's very young. I mean, #1 overall pick. I'm still with him, giving him a shot here. Followed by, actually, I think I put JJ. Let me put JJ above Drake May here. So I've got JJ McCarthy following Bryce Young there because he goes into the best situation. He goes to the Minnesota Vikings. You got Justin Jefferson. You got Jordan Addison. You got TJ Hawkinson. Like, you've got a good offense, a good coach, a good team. So I know JJ's not going to be the starter, and he's not the starter right now, right away, but the potential is there. He feels like a safe quarterback that people are excited about and people feel safe with because of the offense that he's on. If he went to a bad offense, like, people are not going to like that, but he goes to a good offense, and, what more can you ask for than Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson? Michael Penix following that. Love Michael Penix. He's not the starter either right now, but he should be eventually, right? We know that Kirk Cousins is on essentially a 2-year deal, but he is coming back from the injury, which was to his right leg that he's got to push off of. If something happens to Kirk, if he goes down for a game or two and Penix comes in, plays particularly well, like, do we have a quarterback controversy at that point? He's got weapons around him, even if it's not this year or if it's not next year, maybe it's in 2 years. Right, the value that Michael Penix is going to be when when you have a prime Drake London, a prime Bijan Robinson, a prime Kyle Pitts, he's walking into a great situation. So that's why I have him here, followed by Drake May, who has a ton of upside, but he goes to a horrible situation. He goes to the Patriots. There's not much weapons there. He might not start the season, but he does have some potential. Follow that with some veterans, some points. All right. You want fantasy points. Kirk Cousins is a very cheap guy to buy right now. Again, he is kind of risky because he's coming off the injury, but we know what Kirk Cousins is going to give us. He's going to give us top 10 production at the quarterback position as long as he's healthy. Baker Mayfield was a top 10 quarterback last year. He gets the contract. Same situation. He's got Evans. He's got Godwin. Hoping to see Godwin in the slot a little bit more. So is that going to help? So Baker feels like a pretty safe quarterback. Follow that by Bo Nix. And Bo Nix goes to the Broncos. Not a lot of talent over there, but he is somewhat of a safe quarterback, as in he's kind of just dinking and dunking. He's kind of just going to do what Sean Payton needs him to do. But how much upside does Bo Nix have? Like, he is a quarterback. He did get selected in the first round, so you have to feel kind of safe with him. He's going to have a necessarily longer leash. So Bo Nix finishing off this particular tier here. We've got 2 more tiers to go. But what do you guys think about tier 5 here? And again, we can kind of mix these guys how you want. If you're contending, you're going to want Kirk Cousins more than any of these other guys, of course. You're going to want Baker Mayfield. Penix Jr., yeah, we talked about that. I'm taking Herbert and Caleb out of 3, putting them in 4, moving up JD, Brock, and Dak in 3. Okay, Derek, I can see that. I'm good with that. I believe Kyler Murray has never thrown for 4K, and he had weapons a few times. Well, let's pull up Kyler real quick. Did he need to throw for 4K? No, never thrown for 4K, but he's got a QB6 finish, a QB3 finish, and a QB10 finish in a season where he missed 2 games. And then he was hurt, obviously, in 2022, and played only like half the season in 2023. So when he's healthy, I mean, he doesn't need to throw for 4,000. Now that he's got some weapons, maybe he does throw for 4,000. Who knows? I get age for most positions in Dynasty, but age really doesn't matter for QB. If you find a guy, you got a QB for maybe 3 to 7 years, not matter his age. Yeah, absolutely. It's more of just a value perspective, right? Like, you can have one of those older guys is fine, but when that time is up, what do you do? Like, people value, the younger quarterbacks more. Do you want 2 top 10 seasons out of Kirk Cousins, or do you want, the next 15 years of, Bryce Young, maybe he's QB like 12 to 15, 17, something like that. Right? All subjective to depending if you're contending, depending if you're rebuilding, and just what value kind of, that you want on your team. Baker scares me. Yeah, I mean, he had a good season last year, and he did get the contract, but he is relatively risky because we haven't seen it for his whole career, right? Kind of like we just saw with Geno, right? Geno had a great year, and then he fell off. So does that happen with Baker Mayfield this year? I don't know. Tampa like Trask is looming in the shadows, waiting for an injury. Yeah, yeah. And that's why these guys are valued a little bit lower. I mean, even though they can give you the points, they are a little bit older, and and things can happen. We saw last year, right? Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, right? These older guys that we were counting on as our QB2s went down, and we were screwed out of it, right? When are you comfortable drafting Penix? I mean, you can probably consistently get him in like, 8th, 9th, 10th, maybe double-digit rounds, depending on your particular league. I'm typically trying to grab him, 8th, 9th, 10th, depending what kind of wide receivers are there at the time. So it just depends like who's left on the board. Like, as soon as, like, because Penix is basically almost just a first-round pick almost. So once you get into that range of like guys who are on the fringe of worth like a first round pick or not worth a first round pick. They're just worth a second round pick. Like that's where I'm comfortable taking Penix. Like I want to take the value. Well, like I said, you can get him decently late. I think in a lot of the mocks, it's been like round 8, 9, 10, 11. Philip giving out memberships as usual. What up, Philip? ATL almost made him not draftable. Yeah. I mean, it's rough with Kirk because, like I said, like one little injury it could be. Maybe it's a concussion that happens, right? And he's got to miss a week or 2 weeks. Something like that can happen where all of a sudden, like Penix gets thrown in. He plays a great game or has a good game or two. He's the young guy. The crowd is loving it. Like it's their new franchise quarterback they're going to have for the next 10, 15 years. Like there's a lot that can happen with that. Yeah, Fields is a tough one. Fields is a tough one because Fields is a tough one, man. Fields is a tough one. We'll talk about him when we get to him. Hottest player midseason for trades. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Tino. Absolutely. He's going to be crazy, crazy hot. Phil is the man. Yes, sir. Who's starting? Minshew, Aiden, Fields, Russ. I don't know who's starting. I mean, they gave Minshew a little bit of money, but apparently O'Connell's been doing well. So who knows what's going to happen there? Fields or Russ. I think Russ is the starter. How long that's going to last, I don't know. So we'll see what happens with that. But I mean, I'm not excited about any of those quarterbacks. Those are just very, very risky guys, guys that are not going to last. They're going to replace Minshew or Aiden next year or the year after. As soon as they get a chance to get a quarterback, like they will replace those guys. And same thing with Fields and Russ. I mean, is Fields really the guy for the future? I don't know. If they've got everything else going for them, I mean, good defense, good wide receivers, running backs, like they just need a quarterback. Is Russ that guy? I don't know. I guess we'll have to see here. All right. Let's get into tier 6, which is a relatively small tier. And this tier is for the veteran quarterbacks. So let's talk about tier 6 real quick. Very small, like I said, Aaron Rodgers and Matt Stafford. And you could even mix it the other way. Put Stafford in front if you want, but these are older guys that are veterans that are going to give you some production probably for the next 2 years, you would hope. Right? And you could put these guys in the back end of tier 5 maybe too with Kirk and with Baker, but I feel like Kirk gives us top 10 production. Like I don't know if we're going to get that out of Stafford or even Aaron Rodgers. Like it might be tough to give us that. But Aaron Rodgers, another one coming off an injury, not a great Jets offense, a horrible offensive line. I don't know. I feel like he's risky and he could just leave at any point. Maybe he's only got 1 year left. Stafford, like we know, we've been thinking about that for the last few years. Like how much longer is Stafford going to keep going? How much longer are the Rams going to be, good? Stafford might hang it up any day now. So, he's a tough one. These guys feel safe as like quarterback twos for this particular season, but I don't want to bank on that. Like I want them as my QB threes. I don't want what happened last year, with Kirk going down, with Rodgers going down. Like that could happen for any of these guys. And then we'll go to tier 7. And tier 7 is going to be a bunch of risky guys. So let's talk about the final tier, tier 7, which is just a ton of risky guys that we really don't know if we're going to get, let alone one season. We don't know if we're getting 2 seasons, we're getting 1 season, if we're getting half of a season. We don't know what we're getting really out of these guys. But Will Levis, I mean, you could argue to put him higher, maybe the back end of tier 5 or in the tier 6, but I just don't believe in Will Levis. I don't think he's the quarterback of the future. I know they've set up some guys around him. They've gave him some weapons. Like, I'm okay if you want to put him up in one of these tier 6 or end of tier 5, but I mean, he's a second round pick. The odds are just against him. And but again, they did surround him with some talent. So, we'll see what he does this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just wind up replacing him after this year, going and get a quarterback in the draft. But we'll see what he does. Geno Smith, we saw him have a great season and then fall off. So what's happening with that? We don't know how long this guy's going to last either. Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Does he even last the season? I don't know. Derek Carr, another one. I mean, he seems decently safe because of his contract. Maybe he's locked in for the next 2 years, but he just hasn't produced how we want him to. He has not been a good quarterback for us fantasy-wise. Russell Wilson, we don't know if he's going to last the season. Justin Fields, we can talk about those two together, right? We were just talking about who's the quarterback. I mean, what's going to happen during the season? Like, is Russ going to play well? Is Justin Fields going to get a chance? Does one of these guys get hurt? Same thing with Daniel Jones. I mean, these guys are on the cusp of being axed from ever being starting QBs ever again. So there's just a ton of risk with these guys. Can you get a Daniel Jones on the cheap? Can you get a Justin Fields on the cheap because you want to take a chance, like, and have them on your bench or have them as your QB3, QB4? But there's just not a lot of upside. There's not a lot of hope for these guys to kind of succeed. So what do you guys feel about tier 7 here? I believe tier 7 we can all agree on that. Yeah, I decided to just stop at some point. Derek, I don't even know. I'm probably up to like 30 something, 30 plus here. Yeah, you can throw Sam Darnold in the back of that tier too. I mean, Sam Darnold's going to be one of those journeyman guys. All good, Derek. All good, Derek. I could have threw him in there. I wasn't even thinking about it really. I didn't even know if I was gonna do like a 7th tier. I was gonna cut it off before that, but I had him in here already, so I might as well just throw him in there. Throw him in there at the bottom. Philip again, my guy. Appreciate you, brother. Gifted another membership out. But yeah, overall, I mean, what do you guys think about the list? I know we talked about it mostly throughout the chat here, but this is where I got guys right now. We'll see what happens after this season, right? What does Caleb do? What does Jordan Love do? What does Herbert do? Like, we'll see what kind of movement we get, during the season and after this season. But I think after like those first 2 tiers, that's where you're thinking about some of the wide receivers or going wide receiver quarterback or quarterback wide receiver and like that back end of the first, that early second. Nah, I wasn't thinking about I mean, he's just not worth much in Dynasty. I mean, obviously there's a chance. And again, we could throw him in that tier 7 there. Like, I'm good with that, but Derek, long time no see. What's goody? Bogart's secret girlfriend. Burrow MVP this year. Yep. I like Burrow this year, man. I like Burrow this year. People are sleeping on him because he's been injured. I mean, we've got that recency bias. We haven't seen him play, and this is what we do to players, right? We did it with Lamar Jackson, right? We did it with CMC. Flacco's pissed. I can see that. Sorry, Flacco. Great show, great list. Appreciate you, Goku. Appreciate you, man. We're here every Tuesday. Here every Tuesday. But yeah, throw out any last questions you guys have before I get up out of here. I'll give y'all a few minutes to throw out some questions. Pam, what up, Pam? Who do you have as Eagles wide receiver 3? How do you feel about Hurts this year? I mean, I don't know if the wide receiver 3 is going to be enough for us, like, because they don't. I know we're expecting them to throw it a little bit more, but I mean, Paris Campbell. Who else they got over there? Johnny Wilson, Anaya Smith. I like. I'm not really too worried about it. I don't really want to take my chances on that wide receiver 3 either. So, I mean, for me, I think it's probably Goddard is going to be your actual wide receiver 3, or you could even argue Saquon necessarily. Like outside of AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Saquon, and Goddard, I'm not really looking at the Eagles wide receiver 3. But who do you like? Who do you think it is? I was going to draft one last pick. I mean, I guess Paris Campbell. I mean, if you want to look at rookies, I mean, Anaya Smith is probably kick returner, punt returner as well. I don't know if you get points for that. Burrow and Pacheco gives 85% of all teams a playoff appearance. Yeah, I mean, you can miss me on the Pacheco, but is Flacco the number 1 drafted backup QB? Probably. I mean, he should be. He should be. Lots of great web talk about this year. I think I'm fading. Lots of great web take this year. Thinking I'm fading QB. I mean, if you're talking about Dynasty, it's super flex. Like, don't do that. If you're talking about Dynasty 1 QB, like, I'm fine with that. There's plenty of QBs out there. Or if you're talking about redraft, like, that's fine too. You want to take your chances on some of the other guys that you can get late. Giants number 1 wide receiver. I mean, it's Neighbors for sure. Definitely Neighbors. Yeah, Da Vinci. If you're talking about just redraft or 1 QB leagues, then for sure you can absolutely fade QB and get some. Like I love like redraft. I mean, I'd love to draft like a Jaden Daniels really late. You know, even some of the Dak Prescott. Like you can definitely wait on QB in 1 QB leagues or redraft. Like even if you want to do super flex redraft, like you could wait on QB. In Dynasty, I'm not waiting because then you'll miss out. How many games before McCarthy starts crying on the field because it's not fair, mommy? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he's going to be whining that. I think when it's his time, like we'll know it's his time. Can we see guys with 150 kick return yards? I don't know about 150. I mean, I guess it's possible, yeah. Depending how much they're, or how good they are at returning it. But yeah, I think we'll see more kicks like returned. Yeah. Which is nice. It's good to have the special teams doing something. Crapshoot for wide receiver 2 on the Giants. Yeah. I wouldn't even guess, honestly. Jalen Hyatt, yeah. Yeah, Jalen Hyatt's not getting 9 to 10 targets. For me, wide receiver 2 would actually be Wan'Dale Robinson. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, Jalen Hyatt's not it. We figured that out already. And we knew that coming out. He was one of the guys we were very much fading. Another membership. Philip, you the man. Philip just handing out memberships. But yeah, let me get up out of here. Throw any last questions you got in the chat. I'll give y'all another minute. And then we'll get up out of here. We'll see y'all next week. Until next time. Appreciate you, Derek. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Appreciate everybody coming out, joining the chat, listening, conversating. Make sure you guys smash that like for me if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe if you're new. We're out here every Tuesday night. If you want to join the Discord chat, you can do that as well. If I can figure out how to do that. There we go. I will put the link in the chat. It is free, so you can join the Discord there. We are basically just talking Dynasty every day. Falcons offense, Mooney or versus Moore? Oh, Mooney for sure. And Mooney was a great wide receiver. I mean, he's just more of a wide receiver too. And he kind of fits right in now where he's actually more like the you could argue wide receiver 4 if you go London, Pitts, Bijan, and then Mooney. But we know that Kirk can throw the ball. So, I mean, Mooney's a guy that I actually really do like. I have a ton of Mooney. Got him last year for cheap. And Darnold gets knocked out. Yeah. I'm wrong on the New York Giants wide receivers. Very off. So who is the wide receiver 1 and 2 then? Because for me, it's Neighbors and then Wandale Robinson. But you tell me who you got. Who's wide receiver 1 and 2 on that squad? And don't tell me it's what's his name? What is it? Hitchin? Fuck, I don't even remember his damn name. Who the hell is even on the damn Giants wide receivers? Like, they still got Slayton. It's probably Slayton. Let's see. Yeah, Allen Robinson, Isaiah McKenzie, Darius Slayton. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins. Yeah, it's Neighbors and Wandale for me. I mean, Slayton could be the number 2, but that dude is never healthy. So, Hodgins and Slayton. Okay, yeah, I can see that. 1 is Neighbors, 2 will be Slayton. Yeah, I can see that too, Derek. I like Wandale, like he's one of those like underneath dudes, you know? They love throwing him in those little crossing routes, getting the ball in his hands. London Mooney Pitts. Oh, okay, Derek. Okay, Derek. Yeah, I think Pitts is really just the actual wide receiver too, but Mooney will give him a run for his money. I mean, we'll see what kind of offense they're kind of calling plays for and things of those sorts. Because I think they're gonna try and just mismatch Pitts out there. Slayton had led them receiving 2 years in a row with what, like 300 yards. Oh man, we'll see what Daniel Jones could do this year. This is his last shot. I mean, that's it. They should have never gave him that money. They should have paid Saquon, but they did what they did. But all right, let me get up out of here. I will see y'all next year. 780. Okay. Still ain't shit, but all right, let me get up out of here. I will see y'all next week. We out. Appreciate y'all.